Welcome to the Feeling Loudly podcast, a show about human emotion and the way we navigate this life of trials and triggers and treasures with the help of astrology and tarot. I'm your host, Jana. I'm an astrologer, a tarot reader, and an Akashic Records reader, and I'm here to help you do this messy life with as much grace, ease, and pleasure as possible. Hi, everyone. Welcome to day 9 of 22 Days of Tarot. Today is our 8th card of the Major Arcana. Actually, no, it's the 9th card. Sorry. But number 8, it gets confusing. Number 8 is the Strength card in the tarot. And I have a special relationship with this card because I am a life path 8, and so this is my soul card. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that term or numerology, there are a lot of formulas online in different places that you can just access. I'll find one and drop it into the show notes, actually. And you just add up the numbers of your birthday and then reduce it until you get a number 1 through 22, and that gives you your soul card. And it can be really interesting and impactful to kind of look into the symbolism of the cards if you're not familiar, and just explore how that archetype has shown up in your life. For me, before I was aware of that being a thing, I did feel a strong connection with the Strength card, and that makes sense. I also am a Leo moon and South Node and IC, so I have some heavy Leo in my chart, and the Strength card is a Leo card, and so that makes sense too. But I was excited for today, and I've been looking forward to today just to see kind of how this would show up for me personally, since I do love this card and feel very connected to it. And it was interesting. I had a strong morning. I woke up and I did my ritual, and then I was like kind of getting after it and was like wiping down the counters at like 6 a.m. and feeling like I had a lot of energy. But one theme that came up today in a big way was control and ego and shadow, and the way that we can kind of attempt to control outcomes in our lives, or like obsessively fixate on questions that we can't possibly answer and try to find the answer. And that's something that's really, really, really familiar to me. My natal Mercury is opposite Pluto, and I have a whole bunch of other Plutonian stuff going on in my chart. I can be deeply obsessive, and it's something I've had to really work on over the years because it is not easy to work with. And similarly, the Strength card, I felt today kind of like brought me into that obsession. And so while I was having a good day and like I overall felt great, I spent a lot of time in the sunshine. It's been beautiful for the past couple days, and I got to lay out for the first time and spend time by the water and have a good meal. Like I had a very lovely day, and I danced and I did all this like Leonian stuff. But there was also this voice in the back of my head that was like tip tapping, and kind of a carryover from the like emotionality that I was experiencing yesterday. That was such a weird way to say that, the emotionality. But I'm feeling a little self-conscious. I don't know if you can tell. It's interesting because like it's not often what I would think of when I connect with the Strength card, but really strength brings us into vulnerability. And this card more traditionally is about kind of like taming the beast, and it's depicted that way. There's a lion that a woman has tamed, and there's this recognition of that like animalistic nature that lives within us. And often it's a card that has to do with sexuality and lust and kind of taming our impulses and developing some level of mastery over ourselves. But that can also bring up that sort of shadow side of control, and how we might try to control ourselves or control other people or control, again, like outcomes. And so that was something that was brewing within me. And I was just like seeking answers, like kind of doing some obsessive divination earlier and needed to pull it back and be like, this is not the vibe. This is not good for my brain right now. And that's like, it's tricky because it's a coping mechanism at the same time. When I feel like tough feels come up, often my little Mercury opposite Pluto brain squaring my moon will be like, let's not feel that. Let's like try to find a very certain answer to this like unknown vast question that has so many variables you couldn't possibly answer it. But like, sure, let's go ahead and do that. That'll help kind of ease any feelings that might be coming up. And not ironically, but kind of divinely, my oracle card today was emotions. And I also had initiation coming out. And the initiation card has been following me around a lot and was showed up at the beginning when, like, for 2 days in advance of this journey. And then on Fool Day, it actually showed up. And so this is a big recurring theme for me. And I see the strength card as a sort of initiation into this next phase of the majors where we've set off, or we're prepared at least with the chariot, and we've set our sights on something, and we've like geared up and gotten our supplies and everything I talked about yesterday. And then with strength, it feels like we're now like, okay, and now I have to put my back into this, or I have to like put my heart into this, and challenges are going to come up, and my ego is going to come up, and my fear, and I'm going to have to persist. I'm going to have to like gather my strength and my courage and face my, like, so to speak, demons. Because once you actually get rocking and moving, that's often when a voice creeps in that's like, no, you can't do this. Let me show you like a million reasons why. And it's a challenge. The strength card literally brings challenges, and it can show us, demonstrate to us our power and our conviction, but it can also be really hard. And sometimes we want to back down. We want to give up and throw in the towel. And for me, that was very much a sort of like mental grapple thing that I was going through today. Like, it wasn't particularly hard. The day didn't feel challenging, but some of the stuff going on in my mind felt challenging. And that's where I had to really like come back to center a few times. And so that was a big piece of this. I did, like, I got a little tea oracle, my tea that has like the little quotes on it, and it said, compassion is your greatest strength. And that was really perfect for today, because when I think about the strength card, I often think about compassion and how it takes incredible strength and courage to practice compassion, especially in the face of like heinous shit, like some of the stuff that we are currently witnessing in this world, and a lot of stuff that goes on all the time, but definitely feels a lot worse right now. And it's hard at times to access compassion, especially for people that we disagree with, and people who've harmed us, people that we see as like others, who we might have to like work a little bit harder to kind of find our hearts. And that work is strength work. And it takes kind of questioning the part of you that wants to shut people out by labeling them, categorizing them, diminishing their perspectives, and all of that. And that's not to say that you can't have compassion for someone and also think they're like a giant asshole at the same time, or like totally wrong. I often do. Um, but the compassion is what helps us be present in the world without completely shutting down and without turning into assholes ourselves. And it's a huge kind of pinnacle value for me as a person, both because of, I think, my Leo moon, and also my Venus in Pisces and my grand water trine that really centers compassion and empathy, and being able to kind of make space for the fallibility of human beings and to see the beauty in that, even when it's hard to. And that's really important to me. And it's a quality that I really, really value in other people. and find it really difficult to be connected to people that can't access compassion when it's difficult to. And so I'm thinking a lot about that and how we often have to kind of practice that within ourselves and find that compassion within ourselves. And that's kind of been some of the stuff today, like having compassion for this part of myself that wants all the answers, that wants to obsess, that wants to fixate on something until it hurts my head and I have to like go to sleep. And I've done that for a really long time. It's just kind of, it's my brain. I have kind of like a little detective's brain at times. And it serves me really well in some regards. And in other ways, it's really hard. And having compassion for that part of myself, the little like detective investigator within me that is like, I need to get to the bottom of it. I need the answers. Is a big deal. And it's something I've been working on for years in therapy and in my astrology practice and through my mystical practices, but mostly just through conversations with myself and the ongoing process of doing shit like this, where I sit down and kind of openly talk about stuff that might be a little bit sticky and tricky. And that to me is some of the most important stuff that I do in my life. And I think it's where that sort of emotional courage really shines, is the ability to look at some of the deeper, shadowier material that we might otherwise turn away from and just kind of choose complacency. The Strength card in the Portals deck features this downward pointing triangle, orange triangle with 3 blue butterflies inside it, calling in this energy of transformation with the butterfly and expansion. And they're all in flight. And then below that triangle, and it's on an all black background, there are these 2 orange eyes that are just staring. And when you first look at the card, it can feel a little bit intimidating because you just see these like creatures' eyes staring at you through the dark. But whenever I sit with this card, I feel a really endearing, like compassionate feeling bubble up within me, because it reminds me so much of the parts of myself that I once thought were monstrous that I just needed to make space for. Often in parts work or internal family systems, which is something that I've been on the receiving end as a client for years in therapy, and I also practice and I'm certified in. There's this like befriending process that we go through with the parts of ourselves that are hard to befriend and hard to engage with and hard to accept and love. And we open the door to conversation and we make space for their fears and for their desires, and we express gratitude to them for the ways that they've protected us even and like kept us safe. And even if it meant through self-sabotage or through strategies that looked really destructive and harmful, there's often this underlying desire that exists within these parts of ourselves to just keep us safe and to have us be well. And we might do that in ways that don't feel great. And that stuff feels like it's really circulating around in my brain today as I'm looking at this card and kind of calling to mind this part of myself that I used to see as really ugly and really like fucked up. And I've talked quite a bit about some kind of deeper experiences, I guess, on this series so far. But the thing that was kind of the most scary for me to share was the episode about cheating. And it's because that was something that I carried so much shame over for so long. And to acknowledge that, like, I accepted that part of myself, and to do so publicly, and to even like say that I didn't really regret it in retrospect because of the way that it was a transformative experience. Like I felt a lot of like, I don't know, I had like a vulnerability hangover after that. And I'm thinking about that again today because I've had just moments throughout the day where I felt really self conscious, like sharing something on Instagram or like just walking around. I had this feeling of self consciousness coming up. And it's so interesting that that would come up on this day of all days, like the day when vulnerability and courage and compassion are really in focus. To feel that self consciousness felt like this little invitation to actually practice what I preach and to kind of do it. So I did my best, and I'm still kind of just trying to do my best. And yeah, our prompt today was who needs you most? And the immediate answer that I thought of was my dog, Poppy. She literally relies on me to stay alive. And so, at a practical level, like she needs me most. Um, but I need me most. Like, I need me in order to survive. And then, outward from there, I heard your community needs you most. And we had a little exercise to watch this video of a lioness that was protecting her cubs from another lioness who was kind of in their zone. And I was hesitant about including that as the prompt for today. And I remember when I was crafting the emails, I was like, this is kind of a weird thing to include, but whatever, it feels right for some reason. And it's very on theme: strength, Leo, lion, and often there's this energy of like protection and ferocity that can come through with the strength card. And so I thought it was cool, but then again, I got self conscious about it and I was second guessing myself. But when I went through it today, I actually found it really powerful because I got to witness this lioness who was protecting her cubs in like a calm but focused way. Like she wasn't over managing them. She wasn't keeping them from like waddling around and exploring and even like going up to this other lioness, but she was very present and very watchful. And when she felt like a boundary had been crossed, she stepped in and she didn't go apeshit on this other lioness. She just like swatted them and growled in a way that would be really fucking scary to experience if you were there. But from like the sidelines, when it was two big lions, it was like, okay, you know that this could have been so much worse. Like she could have really fucked her shit up here. But she didn't. She just used enough like intimidation to get the point across and to set the boundary and to protect her babies. And that is like really resonant to me. Um, as a Leo moon, like I'm very protective over the people that I love, and I consider myself a very loyal and loving person, and I love very fiercely. And I really get like that, like protective instinct really comes up in a big way with my dog and with my humans, with my community, with my friends, with my lovers, with the people who are closest to me. I feel a real acute need to protect. And I think that like watching that video was affirming in a way. And also the prompt around who needs me most, just kind of focusing my efforts, because at times that instinct can get a little bit tiresome and it can kind of be exhausting. But prioritizing helps. It kind of whittles it down. It helps me focus and remember that I'm just one human who can only do so much, and kind of having that check in and that like grounding practice was good. I feel like I don't really have much else to say, and this is sort of dragging on today. So I'm gonna call it there. Yeah, that was my strength day. Got some sun, laid out kind of like a little lioness human with my little lion cub, and got to play and got to laugh and enjoy music and spend time both relaxing and also working and doing a lot of shit and getting creative and obsessing over questions that I can't answer. So that is all I got. I'm going to cut it there, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.